Welcome to Clienting, the place to get information about legal marketing and client development in the digital age. Here are your hosts, Gyi Sakalakis and Kelly Street.
No, I love both my disabled dog and my able dog, who is not really that able because he has severe anxiety.
Is he on the meds?
No, we tried one and it did nothing.
Did you try mushroom tea?
No, we did not try mushroom tea.
I'm not a veterinarian, so take my advice with a grain of salt.
Will do.
Or dismiss it out of hand.
I will do both.
Good. That's smart. We're doing guest questions today.
Yes, very exciting. We're doing guest questions. I asked everyone we've had on if they had any questions, and we got quite a few answers back. So it's pretty good.
Well, that's creative.
I try to be creative. You know, it's
important.
It's part of my job.
Part of the job. Creativity.
Okay, so let's play our first question.
Hey, Gyi and Kelly. This is Alex Barthet messaging you from Miami, Florida, where we're getting ready for winter. So it's about 78 degrees. I'm by the beach drinking a mojito, which is what everyone here does. So here's my question. I have a blog called The Lean Zone, where we write weekly about construction law topics. And I am trying to show up on the search engine result page for the featured snippet that's presented by Google on various topics. So what is the single best thing that I can do to try to appear in those snippets? And the second part of the question is, should I care about showing up in those snippets, or am I just wasting my time? Thanks. Look forward to your answer.
So Alex complaining about the 70-degree weather in Miami.
I don't think he was complaining.
Okay.
I think he was rubbing it in all of our faces just a little bit, which is fine. It's fine.
No, it's not okay. It's mean-spirited, Alex. Mean Miami Alex.
Oh, whatever. We like Alex.
Just kidding, Alex. It's actually been pretty mild here in Chicago thus far. I mean, it's cold, but it's not like how it could be.
Ugh, it has been awful in
Really?
Minneapolis. It has been so cold. The lake by our house is already almost completely frozen over.
No paddleboarding.
No paddleboarding. Could not paddleboard in November. 2 years ago, we were paddleboarding for the first 2 full weeks of November, and it was like 70 degrees one day. We went swimming. It was beautiful.
Amazing.
Not this year. Okay, so back to Alex's question.
Yes.
How do you appear in featured snippets, and should you even care?
So, sure, I think you should care to a small extent, but let's kind of go back for a second, make sure everybody knows what featured snippets are. So, featured snippets are position 0 or Google trying to provide an answer. They usually show up above all the other results. That's why they are often referred to as position 0. Sometimes they include an image. Some publishers look negatively upon them because they're concerned that the searcher stops their journey on the search result page instead of clicking through to the content. But for lawyers, I would say that yes, you should care. 2, you should go to getstat.com, stat search analytics, and search for their white paper on featured snippets. They have a phenomenal resource on the types of featured snippets you can generate, how to mark your content up to try to earn featured snippets. But the cool thing about featured snippets, if you can pull it off, is you don't have to necessarily beat the web page in the number 1 spot to get the featured snippet. Oftentimes actually, you can be in the 4th, 5th spot. Stat actually breaks down on a big set of data what their average position is for earning the featured snippet, but it's not the 1 spot. So if you can find featured snippets for relevant queries to your practice, it's a good way to beat competitors for visibility in search without having to earn the 1 spot.
Yes. Other things or in addition to that, some of the things that I've read are content should answer a question. Doesn't necessarily need to be in the how do I, what is format, but should answer a question. of course, extremely high quality. That's the reason that it got that spot. It's the most comprehensive answer. It has high engagement when people are clicking through to it, kind of the most robust. So like Gyi said, see what else is ranking in that query. Check the people also ask box, because this is another great place to find out what other questions people are asking around that search, whatever it is that you want to come up for. And then basically, one of the main things that I've seen is that people say, hey, check out what is already getting that featured snippet and make something better. That's a little, could be up to your own standards, better, and may not actually be the best thing as far as what people are searching for, but that's kind of the idea behind it. And I also read that if you are already showing up on page 1, you're in a good position to be able to take over that spot. If you're showing up on page 3, 4, you've got a lot of work to do. And last thing, keeping your paragraphs short, because the featured snippet usually has around 40 to 50 words in it, and then making sure that the rest of your content, whatever it is that you're writing about, is really structured. Bullet points, lists, any of that stuff will kind of help give a little bit more engagement with readers, but then also kind of break it out a little bit so that Google knows, okay, this part of it answers this question, and it's a little bit more entertaining and shows the comprehension.
And there's one more thing that I'm surprised that you didn't bring up, because I know how much you love it.
Images?
Nope.
Oh, what is it? What is it?
It starts with a V.
Video.
Nope. There's a television program that's a singing competition that's called the Voice Search. So
yeah.
Google usually reads the featured snippets for answers. So for example, if you earn the featured snippet for something like, what is a construction lien? And Google is going to serve a featured snippet. If someone that were to ask their Google Home or Alexa device that, certainly Google Home, I should actually double check if Alexa is doing the same thing. I think they are. But in any event, they're usually going to read the featured snippet as part of that voice search result. So if you want to future proof and be sensitive to what's going on in voice search, like Kelly mentioned, it's really effective for frequently asked questions. That's the way to earn that voice search answer.
Yes. And I will put Gyi's GetStat white paper in the notes, but I will also put one other really great article that I read was from Moz, their optimized featured snippets. And just to think about what it is that you're trying to go after, questions that most often got a featured snippet as the result were DIY processes, health things, financial, mathematical, but mostly for our audience, things that had a requirement, a status, or transitional questions. So, of course, divorce related comes up for me a lot when I think about transition, that kind of thing. Those are really great things to be able to kind of go after. And Alex is more in the construction topic stuff. So for that, I would say requirements, that sort of thing would be an awesome thing to try to go after for featured snippets.
Absolutely.
Oh, and back to should you care? So Gyi said, yes, I think probably with an asterisk, and I would second that. I think if you're spending so much time on trying to figure out how to get, one position up to get to that featured snippet, maybe just try to go for great rankings overall. But it can be really satisfactory to get a featured snippet. I know some of our digital marketing managers have gotten them on some things, and it's just like it feels like an amazing win.
Totally. I think the biggest thing is beyond all the other, quote unquote, create great content stuff, make sure you're including structured data markup depending on the type of snippet that you're trying to go for. Again, refer to Stat. They break a lot of this down. But, as Kelly mentioned, I think this is got to keep perspective. If you're upset, don't obsess over these things. But be cognizant, use autocomplete, use people also ask, use related search, identify the types of queries that your clients, potential clients, referral sources are using that relates to your subject matter, create content that's responsive to that. And I think that you're 80% of the way there.
Boom. I love it. All right. Next question.
Hi, this is Jared Correa from Red Cave Law Firm Consulting and Gideon Software, Inc. I'm a former client and guest, and I have a question. I work with a lot of lawyers who are flummoxed by social media just because there's so many choices. So my query is, can a lawyer pick one social media platform to use for marketing their law firm? And if so, which one?
Flummoxed by social media. I think that's half true. And well, maybe it's probably more than half true. I think lawyers probably rightly just aren't exactly sure how social media fits into things, because I get that. I say all the time, like, who wants to friend their lawyer on social media? And there are some lawyers that are definitely getting around this. I think especially on Instagram, I notice this more than anything else. I don't actually recommend it for every single lawyer in every single type of practice area, but I do think that Instagram, with how they have the stories and the photos, I think it can be a really great area for particular types of practice areas. We just had the question from Alex Barthet. He and his law firm do social media very well. They post all of these really great pictures on kind of construction fails, and it's great. If I was a potential client of theirs, I would definitely follow them because it would be entertaining, it would apply to what I'm doing, and it would also keep me engaged with them over the long term. But divorce lawyers that's harder to have traction on social media because people might follow you for a while, but they might not necessarily want to keep following you after their process is over.
I think those are all some great examples and some great tips. My thinking view on this is that, one, I think that lawyers also give them a little benefit of the doubt. They get a lot of bad advice about how to use social media. So
yes,
for me, I just think of it as an extension of networking, right? So if you're not good at networking, relationship cultivation in the real world, I think you're going to struggle with social media because it's all of that kind of stuff. And it tends to be a little bit more nuanced. It tends to be a little bit more design driven. But I would say this. Jared asked, can you pick one medium? My analysis would be, if you're going to pick one, pick the one where your clients and or your referral sources are spending the most amount of time. I think for most lawyers, it's probably Facebook or LinkedIn. I think that if some lawyers do a fantastic job on Twitter in earning media attention and providing commentary. Ken White at Pope Hat is extremely effective use of Twitter, SCOTUS blog. But, those followings take a lot of time and they're very media and news driven. If you're just looking for connecting in your local community, connecting with potential, quote unquote, B2C, or if you're delivering your services to like local legal services consumers, I would probably think Facebook. They've got the numbers. That's where the eyeballs are. That's where people are spending 50% of their day. That's where I would focus. On the other hand, I think for professional networking, so if you tend to get a lot of professional referrals, so referrals from other lawyers, referrals from accountants, referrals from other business people, I would spend more time on LinkedIn, and I would be thinking about things like you would do in the real world, wishing people a happy birthday, sending them a message on their work anniversary, maybe highlighting some important legislative change depending on the type of law you practice. Participating in discussions in LinkedIn groups, private Facebook groups. The big thing, though, that I think lawyers mostly are flummoxed by is whether they got bad advice or whether it's a carryover from traditional advertising thinking. They think this is the opportunity for them to broadcast their advertising message, and people are just unfollowing, blocking, unsubscribing, reporting. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind, like big picture. Social media, the norms and the way we use it is still evolving. It's still pretty new. And I think the next big wave is going to be the wave of filtering. People are going to start blocking marketing message, especially from business pages. So make it authentic, make it real. Think about what you're posting there in terms of how people that are going to like it. Some of the examples I think Kelly gave were great. I wouldn't just focus on practice marketing messaging. I would focus on things like, what's your firm doing out in the community? Are you passionate about a certain cause? Are you active in a certain charity? Are you highlighting people at your firm or things you're doing at the firm? Those are the types of things that I think are going to resonate more on social media than, get a free consultation or 10 things to know after a car accident, that kind of stuff.
Yes. And one One other thing that I would say to do or not to do is don't post other people's quotes all the time. Do like he was saying, what are they doing? What are you doing in the community? What are you doing at your firm? What are you doing for your cases? That sort of thing. All of those are the best combination so that you're showing that you're humans, you're lawyers, and you do interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, think about the stuff that you click like on, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I see the stuff that you actually like on Facebook and then do more of that.
Oh, and I think on the note of can lawyers pick one? Yes. I recommend, and Gyi, you can disagree with me, I recommend setting up a profile at least on them, on the kind of the big four. But definitely, if there's one that you like or one that you're getting more engagement on, go all in. Put your time and your effort into that one, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's another good point that, kind of caveat to that is you don't need to spend your whole day on social media to get a ton of impact and engagement. I always say use the small times. If say you're commuting, but you're not driving, or you're at lunch, or you're waiting for, I don't know, motion call or a deposition or something, those small little touches, connecting with people, responding to comments, that kind of stuff, wishing somebody a happy birthday, it's just like networking in the real world. It's like a public and permanent text message. So the types of things you would do to network with your colleagues, friends, family, people in your community, you're doing that on social media. Even 15 minutes can go a long way to creating new relationships and solidifying the ones that are extremely important to you.
All right. And bonus question, Jared said that his son has one for us. So let's listen into what his son's question is.
How do I get other kids to trade me their good Pokemon cards for one of my weak Pokemon cards? For an example, an EX or so, like something like a Mega something EX.
Okay, very good question. Pokemon cards. Gyi, have you ever played Pokemon cards?
I have not. So I'm really going to be going out on a ledge here with my answer. But have you exchanged Pokemon cards?
I haven't, but the other day, a kid did bring home a Pokemon book, and she doesn't play the cards either, but she brought home a book with all of the characters in it, and they have some pretty cute ones.
Well, Jared's not going to like my answer. His son should, because it will work. I guarantee it. This is a guaranteed you will get Pokemon cards that you want.
Okay.
Go ask your dad for $20. Take the $20 and you'll have your pick of Pokemon cards. Although, depending on how old Jared's son is, that could be really bad advice. They might be like, $20, what am I going to do with that?
I think he'll get it. Get it.
Okay.
Okay, my advice about the Pokemon cards is to do a 2-for-1 deal is one option. The other one is to sell that card, your weak Pokemon card, sell it. Think about what your dad, when he was practicing law, what he would do, and create an amazing oral argument and confuse the other kids into thinking that weak card is actually a good card. Turn
the weaknesses into strengths.
Exactly.
I don't even know what makes a Pokemon card weak. Its attributes.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Turn those weaknesses into strengths.
Yes. And just confuse them. Argue your way into saying that it's a really good card. And eventually you'll find a kid who you can convince that that's actually a good card.
There you go. You heard it here.
All right. Next up, we got a couple questions from Jason Beam. So let's listen into number 1.
This is Jason Beam from San Francisco. I was wondering if there are any tricks to running successful PPC campaigns without spending tons of money. For example, I've heard that this can work with long-tail keywords, but I don't know if that's true. So anything that you can do to help educate me about this subject, I would definitely appreciate it.
Okay, Gyi, I'm gonna let you man this one because you are much more on the PPC understanding than this brain.
PPC tricks. So for everybody that might not be initiated to the wonderful world of Google Ads or Bing Ads, we're talking about pay-per-click campaigns where you pay the search engine for a sponsored placement. Okay, a couple tricks. So the first one is explore Bing if you haven't. So the cost per click on Bing is way lower than it is on Google. Of course, Bing has a lot smaller market share than Google, but if you're budget conscious, Bing may be, depending on where you are and what your practice is and who your clients are, Bing might be a good opportunity. Number two, you can go research this, single keyword ad groups called SCAGs. Those could be a good option for you. The other thing that I like to do is harvest. So Jason mentioned thinking about long tail. So long tail, head terms, you think of things like criminal defense lawyer, divorce lawyer, personal injury lawyer. Those would be called head terms. The opposite of that would be something like, how do I make sure that I can maintain custody of my kids after a divorce? That might be a long tail search. So one thing you can do is you can do a broad match modified query, which will capture a lot of variations of those terms, and then negative out the exact keyword or phrase match out the exact keyword so that you're not bidding on head terms, but you're bidding on all of the terms that include the head terms as they're used in a variety of longer tail things.
Whew.
Couple other tips.
Is there a resource for what you're just talking about to give the how-to?
Yeah, PPC Hero. There's so many different great paid search strategies online. Brad Geddes stuff is really good. Other PPC, my friend Kirk Williams, PPC Kirk, his stuff's really good. He's got a lot of good tips, especially for smaller budget advertisers. Another is, at the end of the day, the holy grail, in my opinion, for paid search is click-through rate. So doing things to improve click-through rate to get your quality score down. Don't make sure your ads are as robust as they can be. Make sure you've got extensions. Make sure you've got call-out extensions, location extensions, call extensions, all that kind of stuff. All those extensions can impact your ad rank. They take up more room. And so on like mobile devices, you can push everything else down with, a very robust ad, landing page experience. So make sure that you've got, this is kind of table stakes stuff, but responsive design, super fast, easy calls to action. There's some different schools of thought on this, but I would say I'm big on dedicated landing pages, tying the relevance between the query. If you use a single keyword ad group with a very dedicated ad and landing page, tightening up that relevance, I think can be really powerful. What else? Tricks without tons of money. The good news about this stuff is that you can control your daily budget, so you can set a smaller budget. But the big issue is that the head terms are super expensive. Long tail search terms are going to tend to be less expensive, and so you got to get creative with things. There's a whole bunch of settings in there to do it really well. Though it's like a whole job, right? You got to really learn how to manage paid search campaigns. You've got to always be testing, but you can control your budget, which is a good thing. And I think that we've already got an ad in the local pack, and so we're likely to see more sponsored listings in the local pack. You can't directly manage to the local pack, but you can do things to increase the likelihood that you can show up in the local pack. So I'd be searching for how to actually get your ads to show up in the local pack. I think those are more efficient because instead of just clicking on the first ad, you've got people that are actually trying to engage in the local pack with the stars and the business stuff. And I think that converts better. And one last thing, call only campaigns. So instead of driving people to landing pages, look into call only campaigns, which basically turns your click into a call, kind of squeezes out the middleman of clicking through to the website. But we've had a lot of success with call only campaigns.
Cool. Good stuff.
All right.
All right. Question number 2.
If you could only recommend one or two kinds of content to create and market, what would you recommend? Where would you put your energy right now if you feel like maybe this is an area that's been lacking or that you want to do more with?
All right. One or two kinds of content to create and market. So I think for me, and I'm particular thinking of Jason's practice area, which is DUI and then kind of the niche of the festival law, I would say I think writing and video. And it could be that video ends up being the writing and you take the transcript from the video and do that. But I think for your particular practice area, Jason, I would put my bets on that. And as far as the writing goes, it's more about where you put it, in my opinion. And I think you could do really cool things like posts on Medium and other really interesting, more kind of bigger sites, because the areas that you're practicing in, those are really kind of cool, hot things that are topics that are being debated right now that could get you a lot of traction to be on more on the different sites and bigger places than just your website, essentially.
And so I'll add, because I'm an old fashioned SEO, you need to publish stuff that people are going to link to. And so I think taking public data and doing visualizations with it, whether it's a map. So, maybe you have like most likely festivals to be arrested at for something, dress that up in a map, get that out there in front of people who cover the festival industry, or the highest areas of getting arrested for DUI, stuff like that. You can pull public data, make a visualization out of it, make a map out of it, make some charts out of it. That kind of stuff where that becomes the go-to resource. It positions you as the expert, shows you're on top of what's going on. And if it's creative and it looks cool, you're going to increase the likelihood that people are going to read it, share it, and link to it. And as all SEOs should know, those links, especially on a local level, can help a lot. That's another one too that I would think about is like, what kind of things can you put on your site that maybe local businesses would be interested in linking to or sharing on their business sites, or local bloggers would be interested in sharing, because it's those, a little shout out for the Moz and White Spark local search ranking factors survey that just came out that I'm a proud participant in. Links, those local, topical, and geographically relevant links really move the dial for local rankings. And so content that helps earn those local links, that's where I'd be focused.
Yes. I think that idea of like festivals that, you're more likely to get arrested at is an amazing idea, Gyi. And I think like a top 10 kind of post about those, like top 10 Northern California festivals that you are likely to get arrested at. And then you can you can pay somebody on Upwork to gather that data for you, like get the arrest records and then figure out how many people attended and, what percentage of people got arrested and that sort of thing. Like that's easy to outsource that part of it and then just turn it into the content on the back end. That's an awesome idea. So things like that.
Which bands have the most arrests?
Yes. Anything like that. That's good stuff.
We're spitballing here.
Yep.
Just spitballing.
Love it. All right. So that was the last of our audio questions, but we did get some written in. Our first being, and I will read it because I know this is going to be one that you are also going to answer, Gyi, from Sam Glover, of course, of Lawyerist. What Yoast SEO plugin settings should I check or change after installing it on a new website? And is the pro version worth paying for?
Okay, so the first question, there's a bunch of settings that you should probably check. One, obviously, and Yoast is pretty good out of the box about giving you these warnings, but if you've got the block all robots checked, you want to make sure you don't have that checked. But Yoast will usually identify that early on. I would also make sure you've got your XML sitemap configured. And then the other big one that sometimes people miss out of the box is to make sure you've got excerpts or something in the, let me kind of go back for context. So good SEO practice, unique titles and meta descriptions for every page. And so sometimes, depending on how you've got Yoast configured, you might not, in what version, I think they might have addressed this, but sometimes I've seen sites where you go in there and they've got the site name is the title of all your pages. That's a huge no-no. And then two, put something in the meta description box, whether it's excerpt or something like that in the template, because you want Yoast to generate a unique meta description for each page. Those are big SEO configurations. I think another thing too, I'll just give a shout out to, this is quasi related to this question, to Ross Hudgens of Siege Media. Ross has some of the best stuff right now, in my opinion, in terms of video sit downs with a variety of experts. So you just search for Ross, Siege Media. But one of the things that they talk about is how you can't just install Yoast, get a green indicator and think you're done. And so I would just set the context of Yoast is as great as Yoast, and we love Yoast. Yoast, if you're listening, I doubt you're listening, but if you are, we love Yoast. We love all of your tools. However, it's not set it and forget it. They make it a lot easier to use WordPress, but it's not as simple as just getting the green light and calling it a day. Just as I'm rambling here, the biggest one is to make sure that your site's not de-indexed. Is a pro version worth paying for? Really hard to say. It depends, how sophisticated and complex your site is and what you're doing with your site. The free version out of the box does a lot of the basic blocking and tackling for SEO. And so I think for most lawyers who don't have a big marketing budget or a huge site or a lot of complex features or regular updates and they're not doing, maps and all the other things that some of the Yoast premium tools can do, it's probably not worth it. On the other hand, if you're spending $30,000 a month on SEO and you're using Yoast, I would think that a professional Yoast license should be part of that budget. So I know that's not a direct answer. It's one of those, it depends, but it's so hard to say it's worth paying for everybody. I would say most of the time it's probably not, but there certainly are configurations and sites and lawyers that I've seen that they've got a lot of value out of paying for the pro. So sorry to dodge that, Sam, but thank you for the questions.
Yes. Okay, so we've got a few questions from Aaron Levine here, so we'll roll through these. First one, what platform do you use to build sites for clients? WordPress, Wix, and why? I know this one, WordPress. We're all WordPress here at Attorney Sync. Why? Because simply it's the best. It has the best plugins. It is more robust than other sites. You can do a lot more with it. I could go on, but WordPress.
WordPress for sure. I'll give you a little more reasons why. One, it's general public use license. You have a world, literally a world, a globe, the whole earth of people that are developing themes and plugins that extend WordPress functionality. But the biggest thing for me, we get into this constant discussion about proprietary versus open source software. So Squarespace, Wix, GoDaddy website builder, you pay those companies for a license to use their software. And the challenge becomes that what happens if you decide you want to switch hosts? What happens if you don't want to be on Squarespace anymore? What happens if you want to do something more complicated? Well, now you're stuck because you have to have somebody, if you want to keep your existing site, you're going to have to have somebody coded in WordPress or something else that you can move off of. The other thing too that I've unfortunately seen is a lot of lawyers are taking advantage of with these proprietary content management systems. They're paying hundreds of dollars a month just for the content management. People, stop doing that. Now, on the other hand, Squarespace, one of the things that I hear a lot of lawyers talk about with Squarespace is it's a lot easier to use out of the box. And I think that that's probably true. I think a lot of the drag and drop, what you see is what you get, proprietary website builders, they are a bit easier to use. So if you're brand new and you're adminning your own site and you've got low budget and you don't really care about extended functionality or ever moving it off of that host, I would suggest Squarespace. Go look up Wix SEO issues. I think some of those are resolved, but that was a thing at some point. If you're going to go proprietary, in my opinion, is Squarespace, but that's just one person's opinion. But like Kelly said, just use WordPress. And it's WordPress.org, not .com, because that's a different version.
And one thing with Squarespace, definitely be careful about the theme you pick, because I do know a lawyer that she just happened to like and pick more of an e-commerce site. And she thought she could fix it all and just have the e-commerce not matter. And it sort of worked. But on her mobile version, you could still see a thing for a shopping cart. And that's really weird and confusing on a law firm website. So just be careful about that.
Yeah, not only that, a lot of those themes too, if the themes aren't optimized, they'll do things like kick out unoptimized titles and meta descriptions and that kind of stuff. So good point. That's true on WordPress too, though. So you got to be careful. That's where tools like Yoast come into play.
All right. Gyi, why don't you read the next question?
I will read the next question. If a client has a limited budget and wants to work with you, what do you suggest that they start with first? Updating their website, SM presence, guessing that's social media?
Yeah, I'm guessing that as well. Okay, so I think I would say, as far as updating the website, it depends on how limited the budget whether they're going to pay somebody to update the website or do it themselves. But that is definitely a big place to start. If you've got your original website that your firm did in 2001, definitely need to update the website to make that responsive design and therefore mobile friendly. Getting a little social media presence is great, but definitely doing the SEO friendly things of putting good content on your website, getting places to link to you, doing Google My Business is great. All of those little things that can kind of give you a really good foundation to get started and then go from there. And as you're getting more and more clients and have more and more budget, investing in other areas.
Yeah, I would throw out their audit, right? So I think that having your site audited by someone who really knows SEO, looking for things like the meta information, doing a competitive analysis of some of your competition, backlink analysis, page speed, security, there's a bunch of audit checklists. To me, that's a good starting point, because then you can either decide, hey, I can fix a lot of this stuff myself, or you can work with your existing developer or internet person. But I always like to suggest starting with an audit to get a lay of the land, see what it's going to take to actually fix some of the stuff that you might need. And it also might just be validating that, hey, you're doing a lot of the things right. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Do your copywriter services include pitching to media? If not, do you have a go-to resource to help guide us on that endeavor? So I think we don't really refer to it as necessarily the copywriting services pitching to media. It's more part of our link building strategy and SEO side of things. But we do that at Attorney Sync and definitely do some kind of the outreach to journalists and PR, that sort of thing, as far as that goes. So yeah, we do that. But are there other resources that you can think of, Gyi?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing that I typically recommend people do is search for, again, like Kelly mentioned, it's really like SEO focused. So it's like SEO PR or SEO outreach, but there are like some of the tools that assist with outreach, like BuzzStream, Pitchbox, Authority Labs.
Oh yeah, Chris Gober told us about guest booking. If you're trying to like get on a show or something like that, that's another good one.
Yeah, a lot of those, the software blogs that support the outreach have a lot of good stuff on how to do outreach. I usually like to just kind of search around for different posts on outreach. Everybody has a different approach to it. We tend to think of it from an SEO standpoint, but just some good general tips are, identify local bloggers, journalists, news sites that cover stuff related to your practice, and start nurturing relationships with those people on social media. So a lot of the media people are on Twitter. So if you're looking to do news PR outreach, I'd be looking at trying to connect with local journalists, local nonprofits, organizations that are active there. Start having conversations with them. And if you have posts or resources on your site that are useful, that they might find that can add, as you start developing relationships with these people, you will see that you get more emails, phone calls, direct messages about getting quoted or providing a guest post or article or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's really about identifying the right people that can help you further publicize your content, and then starting to form relationships with those folks.
All right. You read the next one.
When planning marketing services for a particular client, what factors do you consider besides the obvious budget, size of firm, where the clients are?
Those are really kind of at least the big three that you have to consider is geographic location, size of the firm, practice area, of course, is a huge one because some practice areas spend a lot more money on their marketing than others. And then, of course, the budget. Those are really kind of the big four that we consider.
Yeah, for me, the biggest one I think about is competitive landscape, right? So we always try to set expectations that, look, if you're in a major market in a very competitive practice area, and the firms that you're competing with are invested heavily in things like SEO, paid search, internet advertising in general, to win visibility on search in particular, it's going to be tough and it's going to take a long time. It might be expensive, but on the other hand, if you're in a less competitive environment, less competitive geographic area, more niche practice, your clients tend to be not searching for head terms, but they might be asking like longer tail questions, doing a lot more research. It might be on the more sophisticated side of things. We might be able to do things that help you compete that aren't as expensive. But at the end of the day, from an SEO standpoint, there's really three big buckets, right? There's fixing issues on your site, technical stuff. There's publishing content, and then there's the off-page SEO, which is really links, shares, mentions, the signals that Google uses to try to identify, the popular sites around the web. From a local standpoint, it's relevance and, distance, of course, but not a lot you can do on distance if you can't move your office, and prominence, which prominence really, when you boil things down to a lot of the traditional SEO factors. So to me, it's competitive landscape. How, as Kelly mentioned, it comes down to practice area, location. Who are the other firms that you're trying to compete with? What are the queries you're trying to compete for? And how much work and stuff is it going to take to be able to get you to appear for those queries?
Yeah. And everyone listening, if you are thinking about either having help from an agency or a marketing firm, or you already have one and you're not sure whether their prices are fair necessarily, ask around and get, multiple people telling you how much it would cost to do a similar scope of work. And if you keep hearing the same answer, and they're telling you, oh, well, here's the reason why you're in a large city, you're in a competitive practice area, that's probably a pretty accurate number about what you should be spending for your marketing efforts. So, because I see all the time on like different Facebook groups and that sort of thing, lawyers asking like, hey, I got a bid for, $2,000 a month or $5,000 a month. That seems high to me. And if you're asking around and multiple agencies are telling you the same number, that's probably what you need to spend to be competitive in your practice area.
I think that's a good point. The other big thing for me is when you see that kind of stuff, it's like, what are you getting, right? Like
Yes.
So much of this, it's like, depends on what you're getting. Like if it's $2,000 a month for somebody to set up analytics, like, yeah, you're getting robbed, right? If it's $2,000 a month and you're focused on like 15%, I'm making numbers up, but 15% increase in qualified call volume, that can be extremely valuable. So like, the thing that I have tended to say is like marketing is only as expensive as it fails, right? So you should be thinking about things like return on ad spend. So I'm going to spend this much money over time. What can that generate? And then there are the more quote unquote fuzzy metrics, like you want to do awareness campaigns or link building campaigns. To me, it always comes back to that same thing. The thing that you should run away from is, we can't tell you what we're doing for the $2,000 because it's a proprietary secret. Stay away from that stuff. But if people are giving you reasons and rationale and talking in business metrics, talking about lead generation, phone calls, that kind of stuff has a lot more value, obviously, traffic growth in your area. So it all depends. Like, it's only as expensive as what you're actually paying for.
Yes.
Don't pay $2,000 a month for hosting.
No, don't do that.
I know we laugh, but
I know it happens.
It's out there.
Yeah. All right. Erin's last question. Ooh, hearkening back to her episode, how are you able to satisfy your taco craving when you live in the Midwest? Is there really any good Mexican food there? No, there is not. I don't believe there is. I'm sure.
Lies.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I live in Minneapolis. I'm sure there is. Honestly, my husband would wholeheartedly disagree with me, but I don't think there is. My favorite tacos where I am are Indian tacos. So they're roti wrapped and filled with different kinds of things. So anyway, that's just me.
There are tacos here. There are great tacos and Mexican food in Chicago, but I'm not going to tell you, Erin, what places those are because I'm expecting you to come visit, preferably when it's warm, so we can have a wonderful time in Chicago. However, I will qualify this with our tacos probably aren't as good as yours. And so next time I'm out in California, we shall have a taco taste off.
You'll bring some gross cold tacos.
I'm going to bring some cold tacos on the plane and I'm going to put them against your fresh tacos. There's a truck that's even outside our office on my walk to work. And like once in a while, I'll have a taco in the morning. I admit it. And sometimes those are the best ones. Street taco.
Yeah. Street tacos they're legit the best. It's
legit. It is legit.
Exactly. All right. We have one last question, last but not least. This is from Jordan Couch of Palace Law in Tacoma, Washington. And this is a good one. What's the best way for attorneys to gather data and measure return on investment in social media marketing? It seems like just measuring social media engagement isn't sufficient, since you could have a very active following without any of them converting into clients.
I love Jordan and Jordan's question. This is a great question that comes up all the time.
Yes.
And Jordan's instincts, not surprisingly, because Jordan's a very smart guy, are correct that certainly measuring things like awareness is a terrible, or follower counts, terrible ways to measure social media return on it. I mean, there's no measurement of return on investment there. So
absolutely.
So I'm going to put it aside for a second because we're going to stick to being responsive to Jordan's question. If you're going to measure fuzzy metrics on social media, focus on engagement. Don't focus on the vanity numbers. So focus on things like generating comments, generating shares, generating messages, get the engagement metrics up. I think that's a good start.
But Gyi, sometimes people do refer to those as vanity metrics. They
do. I mean, look, you want to put feet to the fire, you can measure conversions on social media just like you do anywhere else. Yes. So you can set up conversion tracking pixels that track from social media platform to your website, to a tracked phone call and or form fill or live chat. So one thing I would suggest people check out, especially more sophisticated people like Jordan, who probably already has this implemented, is adjusting your analytics default channel groupings to distinguish between social, organic social, and paid social. Because it doesn't do that out of the box. 2 resources on that. Annie Cushing's Analytics blog and site, and all her stuff are amazing. Jeff Sauer, Jeffalytics. You can see the theme there with the Alytics and their first names. 2 great sites. Lunametrics, which was also just recently acquired, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you search Lunametrics, the new company comes up. They talk about things like tracking conversions, revenue, in lawyers' cases, fees back to social campaigns. Obviously, UTM parameter tracking. Marty Weintraub at AimClear.
Yes.
AimClear.
He is crazy, by the way.
He's
wonderfully crazy.
Unbelievable stuff. Check out the AimClear blog. He talks a lot about attribution and connecting real value. But at the end of the day, you can track the same, social is just a channel. Yep. So just like you can track fees to organic search, fees to paid media, fees to email campaigns, you can do the same thing for social media. It's just a matter of getting the pipes connected correctly. You can use dedicated phone numbers in your creative. So if you're doing visuals on social media, use a dedicated phone tracking number. That those calls came from that content piece. Same thing in video captions, right? So if you're doing videos on Facebook, make sure you have a caption. Most people don't actually even listen to the sound on the videos on Facebook, but if you put a dedicated tracking number in the caption on the video, it's just showing up in someone's feed. Someone's reading along what you're talking about, and they see that dedicated number. And that's the only place that number is. That they're calling from that number, and then you can hook that up to your contact directory in your CRM. And when that person hires you, you say, ta-da, that Facebook video generated us business.
Yes. I mean, the main thing about social media is having a goal of some sort. And whether it's, you're just like, hey, we just want to focus on brand awareness. You want actual conversions. You want the engagement. You want people to visit your website from your thing. Whatever it is, downloading a white paper, whatever it is, have a goal for what you're doing, for whatever it is, whether it's for the channel of social media that, hey, our YouTube channel is just for engagement, our Facebook is for conversions and downloads, whatever it is, have a goal is basically the starting point. And then from there, you can track it however you want to track it with the UTM or Facebook pixel. I mean, that is one thing for sure. If you do not have your Facebook pixel on your website getting your traffic so you can retarget and remarket to the people who are visiting your website, do that immediately. I mean, that is huge. Build an audience around those people, a lookalike audience, and then retarget your Instagram and your Facebook ads to those people.
All of the major social platforms have conversion pixels and tracking pixels. Another one that I'll drop in there just in terms of like, I think that it's been extremely effective for particular lawyers, especially those that are getting referral business, is boosted content on LinkedIn to very targeted audiences based on job title or company. If there's specific segments and industries that you're interested in, those tend to be really effective. And the other one is that there are campaign types. There are lead generation campaign types on actually most of the majors. Facebook comes to mind, LinkedIn comes to mind, where the campaign is a lead capture form right in the app. So someone clicks on your lead gen campaign creative and the app automatically populates contact information. All the person has to do is click submit, makes it super frictionless from the potential client standpoint, makes it much more likely that they're actually going to inquire about your services. Obviously, the creative matters and all that kind of stuff, just like it does in anything. But in terms of tracking campaign dollars and time to clients and fees, the lead gen campaigns can be really, really effective way to do that.
Absolutely. And it's helpful for the ROI because like in Facebook, they calculate the ROI for you or at least they calculate the cost per lead for you. So okay, there we go. We just had to invest, $150 per lead, and what we can afford to spend is $200 per lead. So we're coming out ahead there.
Use those UTM parameters because you can test on creative, campaign, video on LinkedIn, promoted video on LinkedIn, really, really powerful stuff. Gives referral sources a good sense of your subject matter expertise, what it's going to be like to work with you, why folks should choose you. Yeah, I think we've hit that. But social is just a channel, folks. You can track social return on ad spend just like everything else.
Absolutely. Whew, that was fun. I hope everybody else enjoyed that as much fun as it was to do, just getting all of these different random questions. We're usually the ones asking them, so it's fun to ask them from our guests. So thank you, everyone who submitted a question.
Yes, thank you for submitting questions, friends. We really appreciate that. And as always, if you have questions that you'd like us to talk about, you can always feel free to submit them to us through our website, through social media, email. We love to connect. And we love to answer questions. Don't hesitate to do that. And as always, if you're interested in being a guest on Clienting, we are always interested in hearing from lawyers who have great ideas for client development in the digital age.
Feel free to give us a rating in Apple Podcasts or just send us a note and tell us how much you like us.
Or hate us.
Oh, hopefully not. Why would they listen?
Just tell me that. Just tell me.
Yes.
Don't tell Kelly.
Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone.